I am speaking with Julie LaFontaine, the Chief Executive Officer of the Open Door in Gloucester. Hi, Julie. How are you doing?
Hi, so good to see you.
Great to see you. How are things going at our beloved Open Door?
Well, it doesn't seem like it's been more than or just about a year since the first time we talked about what was going on, but we have indeed turned the corner on the 1 year mark since the Open Door flipped all of its operations to curbside and made its meal program either for pickup or for delivery. Just so many things changed and changed so quickly. But we did make it. We made it through the year. We are very excited to report that our teams became eligible for vaccines this week with the governor's rollout plan. So eagerly anticipated uh, vaccine appointments are starting to happen, and we're just really feeling very hopeful.
That's wonderful. I do want to ask you, over the year, we saw some amazing pictures of lines in other states at food banks in other states. Do you
Mm.
want to reflect back on, or even talk about right now, what you've seen in use at the Open Door this year?
Sure. So, certainly last spring, when we first went curbside, we had a line of people down Emerson Avenue waiting in line to pick up their food. What we did find over time was that we didn't have a long line, but we had a steady line. So someone would come and get food, and then they would drive away, and the next person would drive up. I think some of the lines that we saw across the country did occur when there would be a window of time that a food bank or food pantry was giving out food, say, for example, for 4 hours, from 10 to 2 on a Thursday, and people would just be lined right up for that because it was the opportunity to connect with food. Because we were able to do our food pantry distributions curbside and Monday through Friday from 10 to 5, there were lots of opportunities for people to come and connect with food, and therefore there was not a need for a very long line in the same way. That being said, one thing that we did implement this year in 2021, starting in January, was a drive-through food pantry that was in addition to the regular drive-through curbside pantry during the week. And these are held on Saturdays once a month. Three of them in Gloucester, which are January, March, and June, and then we're seeing, or maybe I've got that wrong, January, March, and May. And then in Ipswich, it was February, and April and June. And this is a place where it's really a low barrier access point where people can, maybe who've never used the pantry before, can go online, sign up. Just very simply come and get some food, help stabilize their households, and get connected with the food resource for future time when they might need it. And those drive-through food pantries have had longer lines. The one that we had in January, we put 249 cars through in just 3 hours. And so that was a steady line of people coming straight through. But again, just really concentrated hours to really put a big push on getting more food out.
Mm. Well, can you attribute some of that, l- some of the shorter lines, to the fact that you are so well staffed and you have a good supply of food coming in? Does that account for the shorter lines in some ways?
Well, we like to think that we do a good job with the team that we have, and all of the volunteers who stepped up during this time to help make this happen. The food supply chain stayed strong with just a few little hiccups in the spring that really mirrored what was happening on a national level. You really couldn't find toilet paper with us, but you couldn't find it anywhere. What I will say, I think the biggest driving factor is the number of hours that we have available available for people to connect with food that just does not create the same need for a line.
Mm.
That's not to say that we're not terribly efficient and doing a really good job, but I think that when you are offering from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, that's some significant hours to get connected with food. Whereas if your pantry, if you're going to a pantry that only serves once or twice a week, it's going to be very different.
Right, right. No, you guys just have an amazing operation. Well, I didn't want to ask you about the American Rescue Act plan, which is this gigantic piece of legislation that is about to enter, distribute amazing funds throughout the country. And it's specifically aimed at helping Americans that are suffering at this time and really enduring incredible hardships. So, can you talk about how these stimulus funds may affect the work that you guys are doing?
Sure. So, let me start by saying that all through the pandemic, we've been working hard to put food on the table for the people who need it most. And that is something that has happened with a strong partnership with government. We always say we like sensible programs coupled with community response, and that provides the safety net that keeps people stable when times are tough. So, to that end, last year, the Open Door provided just under 2.5 million pounds of food during 64,000 visits or deliveries. And that was to just under 10,000 unduplicated people from nearly 5,000 unduplicated households. And I said a lot of numbers there, so let's just put them in context. The number of requests for food assistance were actually up 27% over the prior year. And the number of people that we're serving climbed significantly as well. And I will say this when I'm talking, we don't often say, well, I ate 3 pounds of food for lunch. And so pounds are a metric that makes sense when you're in the food security world, but a pound of food translates, or actually I should say 1.2 pounds translates into one meal. And so if you do the math on our numbers, we, with the help of the community and with this, safety net in partnership with the state, the federal government, we provided just over 2 million meals for the 10 cities and towns that we serve here in Essex County.
And are you including the free lunch program that you supported in these
So
numbers?
we are so all in our numbers are that nearly 2.5 million pounds of food does include the summer meals program. I think we talked about this last year when it was going on, and maybe at the end of the summer when we reported to you that we served nearly 39,000 breakfasts and lunches to kids during those weeks
Mm.
in between when the school lunch program ended and when it resumed again. And there were some really significant waivers that were put in place that made it easy for a sponsor like the Open Door to really pick up where the schools stopped at the end of the school year and then bridge over until the new school year began. And it allowed us to feed people in a really sensible way, give them the food that they needed for their families, and not be tied down by some of the rules that can govern those programs. So
Mm. Well, very indirectly, this piece of legislation will support families financially in other ways. Well, for instance, $28 per person extra for SNAP benefits.
yes, so really exciting news. You know, I've had a chance to actually hear Tom Vilsack speak in person. He's the Secretary of Agriculture, and he's someone who just really doesn't pull any punches. And he was quoted yesterday as saying, "We cannot sit by while food insecurity grows in our country." And in such, they've added 15% to the supplemental nutrition assistance program. Uh, Through September 2021. And what that does, to your point, is it's about $28 more a person, or just over $100 more a month for a family of four. And if you think about what that means, I mean, grocery shopping is expensive.
Very.
I think I'm going to just duck in for a few things, and I come out with sticker shock just about every time I go. And so, thinking about, living through this pandemic, perhaps losing your job, or being laid off for a time, dipping into your savings, potentially into your retirement account, putting things on credit cards to just kind of tide you over. And then, if money is not back flowing again, you can end up with really high credit card balances that that feels like it's going to take forever to climb out of.
Mm.
So I really think that this extra $100 a month or so for families of four will make a huge difference for people, not only as they come out of the pandemic, but as they put their foot on the road to recovery.
Mm. And yeah, so these are parts of this legislation that are not looking at you directly, but they are supporting families and therefore maybe taking some pressure off food banks in this country, right? For instance, the child tax credit, the expanded unemployment benefits, the stimulus checks. So, this must feel like good news to you.
It does, and we certainly got a taste of that last spring. I think when this first started, food pantries and food banks across the country were hit hard, and it was the same right here, with us. But as people got their first stimulus checks, as the supplemental unemployment kicked in on the federal level, as people got their back unemployment, we started to see the pressure on the curbside start to diminish. So at the height of, right out of the gate, we had 1 week that we had a 69% increase in requests for food assistance, which was huge. And I do not think we could have sustained that, Heather. But it really dropped back to right around 40%. And then by the beginning of summer, we were looking more like in the 20 to 25% increase in pre-COVID numbers, requests for food assistance. And that felt manageable with the resources that we had, and the way that people were accessing the programs. So there's a very roundabout way to say to you that, as more dollars go into the pockets of Americans who are really struggling to recover, it's going to make a difference in the number of times that they need to come and use a program like the Open Door.
Mm,
And
right.
we are thrilled because it allows us to continue to provide household stability through groceries and meals, as we always have, but it will allow us to focus on some of the other pieces of our mission in and around nutrition education, and figuring out how to navigate a digital world, in providing programming that is digital, in providing an online access point for people to order their groceries, to either come and pick them up or have them delivered. It will allow us to really enhance the ways that people can interact with us.
Mm. Well, is there anything else you want people to know going forward?
I think that it's just, we said it right out of the gate, and we'll say it again. There are a lot of things for which we are not certain, and this year has been full of uncertainties. But the thing that has proved itself over and over again is community. The other thing that we're very excited about is that we are going to be offering a drive-through empty bowl dinner on Saturday, May 22nd, and you'll get a bowl that is handed to you as that signature reminder that somewhere someone's bowl was empty.
I'm so glad to hear this. Well, thank you so much for joining us and keep us posted on everything coming up.
Okay, great. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.